Money FM 89.3, best of breakfast. Mind your business, only on Money FM 89.3.
Welcome to the Breakfast Show. Audrey Seek taking you through today's Mind Your Business. So let's start with a fact that you may not know. Did you know Singapore's semiconductor journey started way back in the 1960s? Now, fast forward to today, for a country as small as ours, we're making a huge impact, accounting for over 10% of the global semiconductor market share and producing more than 20% of the world's semiconductor equipment. Now, with global semiconductor revenues expected to skyrocket past $1 trillion by 2030, everyone wants a piece of the action, including one homegrown company that's making waves in this space. So meet Global TechSolutions, a Singapore-based semiconductor equipment solutions provider with over 20 years of experience, determined to put Singapore on the global semiconductor map. So what's next for Singapore's semiconductor industry, and how are local companies competing in this high-stakes, high-tech world? Let's find out from Kenneth Lee, CEO of Global TechSolutions. Welcome to the studio and to the show, Kenneth.
Good morning, Audrey.
It's great to have you here. So we've seen major global players expanding their semiconductor operations here in Singapore, integrating AI and sustainability initiatives to stay ahead. So let's start by you giving us an overview of Singapore's semiconductor industry today. What role do we play in the global ecosystem?
Singapore is very strategically located, very stable in terms of its infrastructure, very politically stable. So having that all in mind, it plays a very important part in the whole supply chain, especially in today's trade wars, times of political struggle. I think Singapore becomes a very important hub for the semiconductor supply chain ecosystem.
Yeah,
especially in the R&D sector and also in advanced manufacturing.
So speaking of the trade wars and the geopolitical tensions, semiconductors are deeply impacted by all of this. So with the ongoing trade disputes, especially between the U.S. and China, how do you see these tensions kind of shaping the industry?
So with these two giants fighting against each other, I think one of the key things is it really shakes up the whole supply chain. So now every country which is trying to onshore their own semiconductor supply chain is having and putting restrictions in terms of the supplies of parts, supplies of equipment, supplies of chips to each other. So with that, it actually puts a heavy burden on the whole global supply chain, such that companies like us have to create redundant lines in this supply to have many of these supply chains being locally situated. And with that, it actually increases the cost of operations for all these semiconductor companies.
Yeah. So I want to get into Global TechSolutions, which, you guys have been making a name for yourself in the semiconductor equipment manufacturing space. So tell us more about why you started this company, what Global TechSolutions does, and how you're contributing to our ambition of becoming a global hub for semiconductors.
So I started my job at one of the biggest semiconductor equipment manufacturer in the world. I spent about 7 to 8 years over there. And I see a very big gap in terms of a full suite solution provider in terms of parts, equipment, and services to the semiconductor manufacturers in the world, such that especially from the point of being agile, from the point of quick turnaround, from the point of a full suite solution in terms of development. So with that, I started this company in order to provide and fit that gap, so such that customers and semiconductor manufacturers around the world can basically have an ease of mind in terms of producing their next generation of chips, and they don't have to be bogged down by the equipment that they use. More or less like a smartphone user. You just go around spending, doing the things that you want, while we handle all the apps behind at the scene. Yeah.
Okay. So I know we talked about geopolitics, and we also talked about the disruption of the supply chain. There are other challenges too, like natural disasters, like cyber attacks, raw materials shortages, like you said. How does GTS navigate all of these risks? And are there emerging market gaps that you're looking to address, especially with the rise of AI now?
I think especially at the size of our company, against all the major big powerhouse in the world, one of the key things that we try to be is to be very close to our customer. So if you look at the locations of our R&D and engineering sites, it's usually right next to the customer so that we can react very quickly to their demands, react very quickly to their R&D needs, and handle all the, let them just be focused on the research and development while we work together with them to produce the next generation of technology. So with that leverage, I believe, and this ecosystem that we set up together with the customer, I believe we can actually position ourselves to be more effective in terms of producing our next generation of technology.
Okay, so speaking of big players, as of January of this year, NVIDIA was the world's most valuable semiconductor company, market cap of $2.9 trillion. And we also have industry giants like Broadcom, Samsung, TSMC, which I believe you work with. So as a Singaporean SME kind of competing in a space dominated by such big global heavyweights, what are the biggest challenges you faced in scaling the business, and how are you guys positioning yourself for growth?
I think in the semiconductor world, the most difficult part is highly capital intensive. So there's a lot of resources that needs to be poured inside. So like what I just mentioned together, collaboration, partnership together with the customer is absolutely critical and important for us. And of course, the speed of generation of ideas, the speed of generation of technology together with the customer is also highly critical. But not forgetting that, I think supply chain is also very important in this game. So how we do that is basically at the beginning of R&D, we already try to do things right. Positioning the right supply chain, positioning the right partners, positioning the right vendors, such that we can work together, get it right the first time, and we can move the long way down the road quickly, especially in terms of today's uncertain situation.
Yeah. So are there any technological innovations coming out of Global TechSolutions right now that you can share with us? Anything exciting in the pipeline?
Yeah, something that really excites me is we are producing the next generation of front-end equipment. I think you will be one of the first made in Singapore for the front-end semiconductor industry. It is very highly software-driven. Why is it highly software-driven? Because we know the development of AI. You will have all the plugs in place such that the future development of future AI technology can be easily plugged in and used in this equipment.
Wow,
in the
okay.
days to come. Yeah.
So with over a decade of experience that you have working with manufacturers, what would you say differentiates Global TechSolutions from its competitors? What's your unique edge in the market?
Yeah, so our unique edge is definitely our agility, and also our strong internal control system, such that whenever we do R&D, whenever we do supply chain management, it's all being internalized and systemized, such that we can replicate quickly in the region. So today we are highly focused on regional expansion, especially in Taiwan, in Malaysia, and also in the US, such that we can have a redundant supply chain, especially in terms of trade war today.
Yeah.
We can shift around very quickly, and that defines our agility, for one, and also a quick turnaround time for the customer, no matter where they set up their fabs, be it in Taiwan or there's an India fab coming up. So that is something which we think really differentiates us from other competitors.
Yeah, I got to move quickly, right?
Yep.
So we also have to mention Budget 2025. PM Lawrence Wong recently announced that $1 billion will be invested in a new semiconductor R&D center to drive innovation. So what's your take on this move, and how do you see it kind of strengthening Singapore's semiconductor ecosystem?
So as I mentioned before, semiconductor industry is highly capital intensive. I think this really comes at the right time, because as a Singapore homegrown company, which is trying to expand overseas, we have always been tapping on resources overseas. But having heard this budget, which just came up last week, it really helps in terms of us resolving our R&D capital expenses. We hope that it can actually also bring all the other partners together, such that we can put all our heads together and produce the next new generation for the R&D industry.
Yeah. So, Kenneth, I want to touch on your personal leadership lessons that you've learned as a CEO, navigating this highly competitive space. If someone were to come to you and ask for, top 3 tips that you have for them when it comes to thriving in an industry as competitive as semiconductors, what would you say to them?
I mean, there's numerous books written about this, but there's 3 that really stands out for me. Number 1, which is candidly, be very calculative. So be very calculative about the risks that you take. So because that is something that will help avoid a lot of pitfalls further down the road. And the next one is avoid being inventive. which is not right for a semicon guy, but be innovative. So don't try to reinvent the wheel when you're starting out. Try to change things, understand the thing very clearly, and make that small changes that can actually affect a bigger outcome. Right? And then finally, don't make mistakes, but don't make the mistake twice. So don't be afraid to make the first mistake, but learn from it and never make it again. So that is something especially important when you're doing R&D and engineering.
That's fantastic tips. I'm going to have to remember all of those. And before you go, Kenneth, looking ahead, what's your perspective on the future of the semiconductor industry in Singapore? Is the sky the limit for us?
I think the future of semiconductor, especially in Singapore, is going to be great together, especially with the advancement of the next generation of semiconductor technology, especially in advanced packaging. I think we, together with Malaysia, would be a force to be reckoned with. First of all, these two countries together are very politically neutral, very politically stable in a certain sense. And with the two of them combining hands, I think Singapore and Malaysia will become a very important piece of the pie in this whole semiconductor jigsaw puzzle, if you like. Yeah.
Okay, well, from navigating geopolitical challenges to driving local innovation, it's clear that Singapore's semiconductor sector is primed for big things, and local players like Global TechSolutions are paving the way forward. That was Kenneth Lee, CEO of Global TechSolutions. It was really great chatting with you, Kenneth. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Audrey.
Keep it here on Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.